It's the 3rd of June 2021. A subscriber congratulated me for giving the date, because it's nothing as bad as to look at a video and realise it's several years old or it's dated or out of date. So I try to give the date at the beginning, so you know where I'm from. It doesn't mean that some of the videos are not relevant even years after, but I think it's no harm. So it's the 3rd of June 2021, folks. It's overcast, good weather. There has been some warm weather, dry weather. Farmers are busy cutting silage and are getting a great chance. We can't complain. And for most people and others, it's hoping it'll grow. So, but it's cold. It's been a cold spring, all told. A cold spring, and there are some strange things. There's a reduction in the number of swallows that came over, and some strange things happening. But it's the driest spring on record, as far as I know. Anyway, this video is Stubborn Irish, and let me say, we're probably not any more stubborn than any other country, but we have some stubborn people. But what we have in Ireland is the ability of these stubborn people to get into places where they can make the rules and where they can impose their will and cause devastation on other people. And this is particularly in relation to the roads. And this is roads. Now, in 1980, the average number of deaths on the roads in the Republic of Ireland was 13 in 26 counties. 13. So there were a lot dying. It's a lot less now. A lot of measures have been brought in to reduce it. Not all of them are that popular, but an idea of that is we have fairly strict law enforcement, and there's a penalty point system and all that. But for years it was the Gardaí themselves that enforced all the speeding and all that. But then that changed, and the guards didn't want that. So you had private companies actually doing speed traps. But it was the Gardaí that processed it. And in the case of the Sergeant Maurice McCabe case, they were being cancelled all over the place by local superintendents. Now, as that inquiry got on, Commissioner Martin Callan should have realised that there was a point where you wouldn't get away with doing that. You wouldn't get away with squashing convictions either in Europe or in Ireland. It wasn't politically acceptable, and they should have caved in and brought in a new system. Instead of that, he held on belligerently. He wouldn't change his view. He called the campaign disgusting, and eventually he had to go. He had to go, and an inquiry found that he was wrong and vindicated Sergeant McCabe, and only for Sergeant McCabe had a dictaphone in his pocket on one occasion, it's possible that the thing would have went the opposite way. So it's just pure luck and pure intelligence on his behalf. Now, that a lot of people around Cavan are not that fond of him because there's more strict enforcement and all that, and that's another point of view. But the point I'm saying is Commissioner Callan would not change his opinion. And then Noreen O'Sullivan, a woman, got the job because she was a woman, more or less. That would be my opinion anyway. She couldn't see the writing on the wall either, and she had to go. She had to resign. So two of them had to resign because they wouldn't accept that the day of road safety being a second class citizen, as it were, or being second in line, was over. That day was over. Or too big a population, too much road traffic, and too much wisdom and too much EU involvement to get away with it, but they couldn't see it, and eventually they had to resign. And now there's a central office down in Tipperary, and it processes all speeding, and unless you're going to a serious incident or a nurse coming from saving a life or something, or a doctor, you won't get away at the moment, and that's the way it is. I'm only telling you, I'm not giving an opinion. What I'm really saying is, see how belligerently and stubbornly two commissioners stuck to their opinion. Now, in 1996, I was looking at the television, RTE, which is not my channel, it's an Irish national broadcaster, and on that channel was, excuse me, I'm going to have a cuppa here in the early morning. On that channel, there came a man on with an Irish name. He had a typical Irish name. I see no point in naming him here. There's no point in bringing the wrath of someone on at this stage. He's probably retired. But he was interviewed about the central reservation of motorways. You know, there's two lanes on a motorway, one up and one down. In most of Ireland and in many parts of the world, you have ordinary roads where the traffic meets each other. Now, you can't do anything about that, but really and truly, a situation where a driver drives a vehicle this way at 40 miles an hour and this way at 40 miles an hour, and they meet within feet of each other, is a recipe for disaster. Only takes a lack of understanding or some mistake in order to have a fatal accident. So that's all right. But when you're building a motorway, you would think you would divide the two up and make them two separate roads, except where they have a roundabout. And we started building motorways in earnest about 1985, about that. And the N7 is the road to Cork from Dublin. There's the M50 is the north, is the road circle around Dublin, a motorway up at Finglas and all around there. And there's several other motorways, the M3 and various other motorways like that. I'm not going to. But we built a good few roads. Now the point is, in the beginning, this man who had a say in the design of roads said you do not need to have any barrier in the middle of a road. In other words, he said put a bit of green grass, a wee bit of a drain and a few white thorn bushes. And when a vehicle's going down here and hits the central reservation, he'll realise that he's gone astray and he'll straighten up and he won't kill as many. What he was saying is, which is very true, if one car is going that way and the other one's going that way, this is 30, this is 50. If this crashes into this, it's only a 20-mile-an-hour crash. Whereas if they're coming the opposite other, it's 80. So 30 and 50 is 80. It's a much more serious collision. I think you get that. But he got a bit screwed up in that he felt that factor, the fact that if the two cars are going in the same direction, you'll have less serious accidents. He felt that if you have this meridian, when somebody hits this, they'll realise they're gone in off the thing and they'll wake up and they'll go straight again. And even if they do crash, they're all going in the wrong direction, in the same direction. Now that to me is utter baloney. What happens if he gets a heart attack? What happens if he dies? What happens if he's drunk? What happens if he's completely confused? There's various things can happen that a person can lose their wits and not know where they are. They might as well be in bed as far as they know when some of these things happen. It can be a sudden heart attack, it could be a brain tumour, it could be anything. So the point is that he was saying that they'll wake up when they hit this. And why would they wake up? Number one, if they're ill, they won't wake up. And number two, even if they're that stupid or they're going very fast or they're doing something very radical, maybe doing 100 miles an hour, waking up won't be any good. They can still come out across. That was his view. That was his view, and he had a big say. And he was belligerent in it, and he was quoting examples. Now, there was a study done in Wyoming, and it found that crash barriers do prevent accidents. In fact, it found that 31 inches for the concrete one is the optimum. 28 inches, you have more deaths. It found 31 inches is the optimum. I'd be putting a bit of a thing on it to cut out the glare of oncoming traffic at night from the lights. So this was the issue. Should you put a physical, strong barrier in the centre of the motorway? And so this is about 1996, as I say. Now, anyway, after that happened, here's an example. Here's the Irish Times article here. Now, the Irish Times reports an accident, and this is in 2001, and I'll just read it to you. Oh, sorry, just a second. 3 people died in a crash. 3 people died, and it gives their names, and they're Irish people. And a woman was injured. And the crash happened last night on the southbound route close to Finglas turnoff, shortly after 10 o'clock, and is currently closed. North Dublin Fine Gael councillor Sean Dolphin today called for the National Roads Authority to put a crash barrier across the central reservation of the M50 to prevent such collisions. So there was no crash barrier. And it says here, it says further on, that what happened was one vehicle drove out across the central reservation and crashed into oncoming traffic. One of the people who died was a priest. It's very, very sad. Very, very sad what happened there. They were taken to James Connolly Memorial Hospital, but there was no crash barrier. Now I want to go to another one here, and this is a report by RTE, and here's the crash by the national broadcaster here. Right, so there it's there on the same road. A 22-year-old woman involved in last weekend's 3-car pileup on the N50 died in hospital last night. 6 other people were injured in the crash, which happened on the motorway between Blanchardstown and Finglas. She was the driver of the car, which was driving northbound, when a southbound car crossed the central reservation and crashed into her car and another car. I'll read that again. She was the driver of a car which was driving northbound when a southbound car crossed the central reservation and crashed into her car and another car. The dead woman was from Dublin. Separately, a man was 50. Now, that's okay. So there's another example. In that there is 2004. That's a 2004, right? The other one is 2001. So here we had this man in 1996 saying that you don't need any crash barrier. And in 2001, 3 people get killed when somebody crosses the crash barrier. And then in 2004, another woman gets killed. And there were other accidents. Now, I'd ask you to apply your mind to this. How can any rational person believe that if you build a motorway with 2 roads of traffic, that you should not put a barrier in the middle? How can they possibly think that? It is beyond belief. Now here is the motorway. Here's Google motorways right there. It's there, and we put up the little yellow man. You can see there the way it works. And we put up the yellow man, and we get a look at it hopefully here, and you'll see. And here we are, and there's the road. There's the road, and you can see there's a concrete barrier up. I don't know how deep they're in the ground. So if anyone loses control and hits that, they'll skate off it. They'll go off it at an angle, and they'll be going the same direction as any other traffic. They cannot physically get out into the oncoming traffic. That is so basic. To think that at least 4 people are dead because of a belligerent Irish policy and a belligerent Irish individual who got into a place of authority and insisted that there be no crash barrier on Irish roads is simply maddening. It's simply sad, and it simply proves the point that in all of these things there should be some degree of public participation, and that there has to be common sense, and that people should not be allowed to doggedly stick to their view. They say it's impossible to reason somebody out of an opinion they have not been reasoned into, and there's the cost of it. And in many other walks of life it's the same. Pure, dogged determination, belligerent ignorance, and a complete misunderstanding of the world around, and other people pay with their lives and horrific injuries. Folks, thank you very much. Give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down. We'll see you back for something else quite soon. Bye.